sun is reflecting off everything. It's crazy, but yeah.
All right, Isaiah. Well, thanks for checking in. What's going on, Dan? Good to see you.
Hey, going good. How you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for joining us. A little bit of a background for the members and you. Dan is, and not to be confusing, there's two Dans now, but Dan Nunney is a guy I met through GoBundance. We're both members of GoBundance. He has his own small business, which maybe he'll talk about, but he also is a very avid cryptocurrency guy. And I know nothing about that. So I know a lot of our members are into cryptocurrency investing. And selfishly, I'd like to learn a little bit myself. So Dan, the group members here are all between 15 and 25. And they're all super into early financial independence, real estate investing, frugality, side hustles, earning extra income, entrepreneurship, and some of them into crypto. And I know we have some members who definitely wanted to be here tonight, but couldn't. And we record all our Zooms. So this one will go into our video vault, and I know some members will be watching it. So thanks for joining us, Dan. I think this is the first time I've actually met you. We had a good phone call back. Oh, and Dan and I both have the same business coach, which I don't know how long you've been working with Gary, Dan. I've only been with him for a few months, and a business coach is just an awesome way to catapult and supercharge your journey. But Dan's recommendation for that business coach is what helped me pull the trigger on that. So I owe him quite a bit. And so Dan, I think what we normally do when we have a guest is we let you kind of take 10 or 15 minutes, give or take, whatever it ends up being is fine, to tell. I always say to tell your story, but for tonight, you can talk about whatever you want, but we're going to focus on the cryptocurrency stuff. So for instance, you might just kind of say when you started paying attention to it, when you started learning about it, your journey with cryptocurrency and all that entails from the very beginning up into today. But if you want to throw anything else in there, by all means do.
Sure. Would it make sense? I'll just give a little background about me, and then I've got like a Bitcoin presentation that I could try to just run through, because that's really where I specialize. Not so much in Dogecoin. That's not my specialty, which many of you may own, but it's in Bitcoin. So if that works.
That sounds great.
Cool. Yeah. So thanks again. I didn't even know that you started working with Gary. So that's awesome. Congrats.
Meet with him tomorrow.
Okay. Good deal. And he does like monthly and quarterly like group sessions. So I'll probably see you on those as well.
Yeah. I know he had one recently, but I don't know if you remember, I'm a teacher. So anything during like business hours is really tough for me to get to.
Gotcha.
But if I can, I will. Yeah.
Maybe in the summer. So,
yeah. Oh, definitely.
Right. Okay, cool. Well, thank you for inviting me, everyone. My name's Dan Nunney. I'm 37. I'm married. I've got 3 kids, and you may hear them through the course of this. Trying to get kids to stop screaming when you're working at home is always difficult. So let's see. My background, I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. I always tell people it's not that bad. We have other people from Cleveland? Wow.
You got 2, yeah.
Holy smokes.
Now is not that bad. It's the best.
Okay. Well, I think so. I agree. But I don't always come out that strong. It's usually, it's our little secret that it's not that bad. Don't tell anybody. So, anyways, for anybody that's from the Cleveland area, I live on the west side. So I live in Rocky River. Let's see. So I went to undergrad at Indiana University. I was a business finance major. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to be involved with making money and businesses. No idea. So when I graduated, I started a business. I started basically like a Craigslist meets universities. So people could buy and sell textbooks, furniture, things like that. I worked on it for about a year, and it was a total flop. Like no sales, no money, nothing. Right. So I learned a lot of good lessons. I learned that picking partners is super important. So I picked this partner, good buddy of mine, and he just wanted to like sleep until 12 every day. So that wasn't a good fit. So after that, I guess I was like 22, 23. It's like, okay, I guess I got to go get a real job. So I moved out to Chicago. I started working at a hedge fund for a couple of years. The financial crash happened, and me, along with like half of the other people there, were laid off. And I was like, okay, well, I know what I'll do. I'll go to law school, right? So just basically meandering through life in my 20s. So I went to law school. I did pretty well there. And then I started working at a big firm in Chicago, and I was a corporate attorney for a couple of years. And I don't recommend that career to anyone. So it really sucks the life out of you. So I was doing, M&A stuff. So whenever there's a deal closing, I was like that grunt associate that's working all night trying to get the documents ready for the next day. Not ideal. Anyway, just fast forwarding. So at that time, I had just had my first child. My mom was sick of cancer. And I was like, what the hell am I doing? I'm like 29. I kind of always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I was not yet doing it. So I sort of had this moment where I made a decision, and I said, hey, I got to make another attempt at this. So I basically burned the ships. I quit the legal job when I was 30, so about 7 years ago. And it was a good job. So it was a high, it was a 6-figure job. I gave it up because it was just, it wasn't where I wanted to be. So for example, there's this partner that used to work next to me, and he was just like the worst person in the world, just people just screaming at everybody. And I had to work right next to this guy. So I always got to see people prepare to go in and talk to this guy. And they were always so uncomfortable, And I was like, I'm never going to be like this guy. And so I'm just looking at it right now. I still have this. So what I did was I framed this guy's picture, and I leave it in my office to like remind me that I'm not going back there. And my kids, we draw mustaches on him all the time. And they're like, Daddy, why do you have this weird guy's picture in your office? And so it's a good reminder. That stuff I think is important. But anyway, so 7 years ago, quit the job. And I was looking for any type of business that I could scale that I didn't have to trade time for money, because in the legal profession, you're keeping track of your time every 0.1 of an hour. So every 6 minutes, you're keeping track and you're writing down what you're doing. And that's just like a terrible existence. So I wanted something I could do a lot of work on, and then it could scale without me, right? So make money when you're sleeping, right? So I started an e-commerce business that sells golf cart parts. So basically those funny little cars that people use on golf courses, or you see around in like old person communities. We sell everything for those. And so at first I was doing everything. I was answering all the calls for the first 18 months, and then slowly but surely started scaling, adding people from the US and then a lot abroad to the point where we've got maybe 30 people now, and everybody works from home. So it's a business that just keeps scaling, and we don't have a lot of the fixed costs that people have. Like, for example, 7 years ago, when I would tell people, hey, yeah, I've got this e-commerce business, we sell stuff online. They're like, so like you sell your used stuff out of your basement or something? I'm like, no, this is like a real business, They're like, okay, well, do you have a store? No, we don't have a store. And they're like, well, that's not a real business. I'm like, you fast forward now, and when I tell people I don't have a store, they're like, that is great, because that's a huge liability, right? Like, because people, all of a sudden your city can, lock you down or whatever. So it ended up being a good thing. But anyway, so that's kind of the business. I do that. That's kind of what I help grow. We're getting into side-by-sides. That's another business line. The business is called Golf Cart Garage. And let's see. So then I started to get into, a couple years ago, I was like, hey, I've got this like internet business that could fold up at any time. Like, I don't know if this is going to be around. So I started thinking about investing and finding additional streams of income. I looked at real estate. I looked at a lot of different things and invested in some stuff. And then I came across crypto basically when the market tanked in March when COVID hit. That's really when I got serious about finding a place to put money that I could control and that would hold my purchasing power. So I don't know how much you guys know about the US dollar and how we're adding lots and lots and lots more dollars. You hear lots of talk about a trillion here, a trillion there, a trillion everywhere. 10 years ago, it used to be billions. Now it's trillions. 10 years from now, it's going to be quadrillions. I think that's the next one. So anyways, I was looking for a place where my money wasn't getting diluted. So I came across Bitcoin and in the crypto space, and it sort of like ruined my life in a way because I couldn't focus on anything else. So before I was investing like 1% in a bunch of different things, and I wouldn't stray from that. And then I found Bitcoin and I invested 1%, and then I like almost can't stop. So anyway, so what I'll do is I'll just share a little bit of background about, for those of you, maybe you guys know a lot about it, maybe you don't, but this is just going to be kind of like, I'll try to run through this in it's like 15 minutes. Sound okay, Dan?
Yeah. And when you say this, do you have a presentation? Do you want me to?
Yeah, I have some slides that I can just kind of talk through.
I will, I'll make you the host and then you can share those.
Okay, cool. And just let me know if like you need to speed up or whatever. This is your time. So whatever you want me to do. Let's see. No. Present. Here we go. Okay. Let me know when you guys can see that.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So I'll kind of quickly run through this. When you talk to people, so first off, disclaimer, not a financial advisor, not financial advice. I'm an attorney. This is not legal advice. Well, I was an attorney. And it says I'm just a guy who likes to talk about Bitcoin. So keep that in mind. So when you hear Bitcoin, like usually people are like, okay, like, what is this? Like, this sounds stupid. There's a lot of like baggage that comes with it, right? There's if you watch mainstream media, 9 out of 10 articles or videos are negative. Okay. So this is what I feel like sometimes, the guy on the right. So I'm just going to kind of walk you through like, what is Bitcoin? Why is it important and why I'm interested in it. So this is kind of, I like memes. So this is what I do. I copy a lot of memes like all day long and I share them. So let's see here. Come on. Okay. So what is Bitcoin? So in the US, we have the US dollar, right? And that is, it is a form of fiat currency, which means that it's basically, you can control print it at any time. There's not anything that is backing it, meaning about 50 years ago, we used to have a gold standard where gold backed up everything. And then we went off the gold standard, and now dollars literally can be created out of thin air. And so when you have, let's say you have $100, right? And you have one of those, and then somebody creates 50 more, that $1 that you originally had is worth half as much because you added 50 more units. I mean, maybe not half as much, but close to that. So it dilutes the value of your money. So Bitcoin is a digital currency, the first that's completely decentralized, where there's a hard cap, 21 million units in existence. Okay. The hard cap is the most important part about Bitcoin. You literally cannot add any more to it. It's built into the protocol. Bitcoins, a lot of people don't know, they see the price of Bitcoin and they see, oh, it's 45,000 or 50,000 or whatever. You don't have to buy one Bitcoin. You can buy one 100 millionth of a Bitcoin, also called a Satoshi. So you can buy literally like 1 penny's worth, right? So Bitcoins, this is the part that's super complex. And, I mean, if somebody were to ask you, how does the internet work, right? Like, I don't know. It just works, right? And that's pretty much the answer for Bitcoin, right? I don't know, but it just works. So really, but the high level is Bitcoin is secured by a bunch of computers around the world that use energy in order to solve complex math problems to secure the protocol. That's the simple part of it. We can go past that because it's super complex. But you'll probably hear of like the idea of blockchain, which is just a public ledger of transactions. So like, as opposed to like at your house, you might keep like list of whatever, your transactions that you have. This is public for every single person to see. So everyone can see everything that's happened on the blockchain. This is important because then everybody can trust it, everyone can see it, and everyone can rely on it for future transactions. Okay, so macro backdrop. So I kind of hinted at this. Why is Bitcoin important? It's important because all fiat currencies, meaning currencies created by government decree by the state, have gone to zero. Every single one that's ever been created. And in our world, right, all of us have lived under the US dollar, even, Dan and I, for the last 50 years. But every single other one has gone to zero. And most likely that's what will happen to the US dollar as well. So as you probably have noticed, like take me somewhere expensive, right? Go to a lumber yard, right? Like prices of everything is kind of going up. It's never a good sign if you start seeing menus and you see prices and then there's like somebody crosses it out and then there's a new price next to it. That's like never a good sign. That happens in, and I literally saw that last night at a restaurant I was in. That means that the mechanism for trying to tell what the price should be is not there. And so we're constantly trying to get ahead of it so we're not losing money. And so everyone starts feeling inflation and they start adding. So obviously years ago, coffee was 25 cents. Now it's $3. So this is coming. We see things like in other countries where inflation has gone crazy, not happening in the States, right? Our country is probably the last that it will happen to, but it will happen nonetheless at some point. Okay. So you probably can hear my kids screaming. Sorry about that. Okay, so the case for Bitcoin. So I've done a little bit on like the reasons why it's important from a monetary standpoint, but just the growth is outrageous. So I love to show this. It's probably hard to see, but this is 1900. You can see like in New York, in Manhattan, there's literally all horse and buggies. And then there's this one little, let's call it a Model T. And then 13 years later, all Model Ts, right? One horse and buggy. So 13 years, literally the horse is gone completely. Innovation moves so fast. And that was 100 years ago. It only took 13 years for like literally all the horses to be gone. So where we're at right now is there's about 100 million plus users using Bitcoin. The internet, to go from 100 million users to a billion users, it took 7 years, and that was about 30 years ago. Right now, we're on pace to go from 100 million users to a billion users in a couple of years. The growth is outrageous. And so right now, we're literally at this stage where you've got you guys may have seen this before, the technology adoption curve. We're at this like innovator stage. We're not even at the early adopter stage. So we are still so early. So you see the price going crazy. We are literally still so early. Just in the last 12 to 16 months, you've seen massive adoption from basically every single bank in the US. And literally, I don't know if anybody watched stuff about the infrastructure bill that was happening in the past couple of weeks. It was held up for a few days just because of the crypto industry. It's becoming such a big thing. So you'll see all these names. Some of them you may have seen before. Some of them aren't that important. Some are. You may have seen Elon Musk getting into it a couple months ago. Tesla put 1.5 billion in Bitcoin on their balance sheet, which they still hold almost all of that. You've seen places like Harvard, Yale, Brown, a bunch of the big endowments all starting to accumulate. Like I mentioned, all of these companies here all have some, either they own a company that is invested in the Bitcoin space, or they've invested themselves, or they're providing custody services or other services for their clients. These are companies that actually hold Bitcoin on their treasury. This is pretty old. This was from, I want to say maybe 6 months ago, but it continues to be it continues to increase. So so like I mentioned, 9 out of 10 articles really, really negative about Bitcoin, right? And if you kind of look in the past, there was quite a bit of this when the internet started. It's really funny if you watch videos about people discussing things about how the internet works, it's hilarious. And I think if you watch people discussing how Bitcoin works 10 years from now, it will be equally hilarious. So you see Paul Krugman, he's an economist. By 2005, it will become clear that the internet's impact on the economy has been no greater than the fax machines. So you're seeing a lot of this, a lot of these skeptics right now. But I like this. Like in 2017, the mouse is really small. 2021, they're like, holy shit, this thing's huge. It's getting bigger and bigger. There's literally, I think, 46 million Americans that own crypto now. So I'll do two other things, and then I'll wrap up with this and just take a bunch of questions. But I think the easiest thing to look at is look at Bitcoin versus gold. Okay. Very similar in properties, right? They can hold their value over time. For example, 100 years ago, an ounce of gold would buy you like a really nice suit. 100 years later, an ounce of gold buys you a really, really nice custom suit. It literally holds its purchasing power over time. Very similar to Bitcoin. The difference is that Bitcoin can be transacted peer-to-peer, literally between any two people instantaneously. If you were to try to, transact with gold, right? You're like, okay, do I shave off like a piece of this gold? Like literally that's not a thing, right? Nobody does this. And then here, we'll go back. Okay, I'll pass over some of that, but I think one of the key points to make here is that right now, the Bitcoin market cap, meaning the total value of all Bitcoin out there right now, is like it was 500 billion. It's about 800 or 900 billion. Okay, gold is all the gold in the world is worth $10 trillion. Okay, so that means that gold is being valued 10 times more than Bitcoin right now. Okay. Okay, so literally, gold is a rock that you cannot do anything with. Okay, Bitcoin is combining software plus money. Okay, like I don't know if anybody's looked at like anything that software adds to an existing thing blows whatever was there out of the water. Right? We have Netflix, bringing software to movies over at Blockbuster. We see Amazon bringing software. The internet to retail, blowing away every single retail outlet in existence. Facebook and Google bringing software and the internet to advertising and information, blowing it completely out of the water. What happens when you bring software to money, right? I mean, it's without a doubt the lowest case scenario is a 10x from here to meet the market cap of gold. So the other thing to look at is over the last 10 years, right? Like some of the early years were just outrageous as it's finding its price discovery, but year over year, Bitcoin grows. Even when you see massive ups and downs all over the place, it grows at a 100 to 200% return year over year. So literally every single year, it's growing at 1 to 200% on your money. Okay, like literally nothing else does that. If you look at the S&P 500 over the last 10 years, it's 200%. You look at gold over the last 10 years, it's 18%. Don't look at these numbers down here, but in the last 3 to 4 years, still outrageous. So really what I just want to like get out to you guys is that this is like a freight train that is coming that most people still don't quite understand. But behind the scenes, all of the most important entities in the country are starting to accumulate or prepare for their Bitcoin position. Literally, some of the greatest hedge fund managers, investors, some of the most powerful people in the world are accumulating Bitcoin right now. Okay, they're not talking about it, right? And you see lots of really, really bad news about it. But if you watch what's happening, there's this massive groundswell. And for example, like you guys have probably heard of Coinbase. Last quarter, they had, I think, 50 million users. 1 quarter later, they have 62 million users. I mean, that's like outrageous. Okay. Like the growth is just so enormous. And so it's just something I want to bring to people, that you're being told this is a stupid asset. This is nothing. Don't even worry about that. But I think it's something that everybody should at least look at and start to try to understand. I think it takes a good 50 to 100 hours to understand it. It's that complex. It involves monetary policy. It involves technology. It involves sort of libertarian values like, hey, you know, F you, don't try to take my stuff, which we could even go into that as well. One last point I'll make is that you may or may not have heard in the last couple months, a country actually made Bitcoin legal tender, meaning it is the same in that country as dollars. So people are required to accept Bitcoin if somebody else wants to pay them in Bitcoin. So in 10 days from today, 6 million new users will be joining the Bitcoin network. And I've been seeing tons and tons of other countries that have been showing signs of doing the same thing. And what happens is, if these 6 million people use it, people from outside of the country now need to get wallets with Bitcoin to be able to send into the country, to send money back to their people. So it has a massive exponential growth networking effect. So that's coming up in 10 days. Super exciting. You know, the matrix has such like I mean, when you think about Bitcoin, lots of people think about the matrix. You know, what are you trying to tell me, that I can trade my Bitcoin for millions someday? No, I'm telling you, trying to tell you that when you're ready, you won't have to. Basically, at some point, the idea is that you won't actually have to sell your Bitcoin, and it may become one of the currencies of the U.S. So we'll see. Who knows? So that's kind of a overview. I kind of skimmed through a lot of things because I wanted to get through to questions. But Dan or anybody else there, any questions or comments, concerns? Happy to talk about any of this.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, I have questions, but I'm going to let the members kind of have the first stab at it. And so, members, if you have a question, just unmute yourself and go for it, and we'll see how this goes.
Okay, I have a question. So, you talked about Bitcoin, but what do you think about some of the other ones? Like Ethereum is one that I'm invested in because of the technology. Do you have any experience or expertise on how Ethereum will grow in the future? Is it going to follow Bitcoin perhaps, or is it going to do its own thing? Or from your, obviously you're not a financial advisor, but from what you're thinking as far as that other coin, I think it's a coin.
Yep. Yeah, great question. So in all of my time looking at these things, the reason why there's what a blockchain does is it's a public ledger that you literally cannot change. And the reason you can't change it is because, at least in Bitcoin, there are so many miners, and there's so much computer power that's being used to secure the network, that it would take more than that to be able to hold up the network for a few minutes, and then billions and billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars to even try to roll back the blockchain. So from a standpoint of like decentralization and security, and its ability to withstand a nation level attack, Bitcoin is hands down the best. There's nothing else out there that is as secure. So I start from there. And so like when in doubt, that is, I think, the best place to allocate money to. But I do see, and so that's like trying to become the next money. Now, some of these other blockchains, like you mentioned, Ethereum, you may have heard of Solana. There's a ton of other ones. They are basically trying to do something a little different. They're trying to create decentralized applications on these different blockchains. Now, I have no idea what's going to happen with any of them. There's going to be stuff that you guys have probably already seen or will see where things 100x or 1000x, and that's definitely possible. Just to give you some perspective, in 2017, most of the cryptos went to zero, never to be heard of. So it's very much like if you were like a startup investor and you put money into a startup, you would want to put money into a lot of startups because 90% of them will probably go to zero and be losers. And then you might have one that does really well. Same kind of thing with the cryptos. But as far as Ethereum in particular, so just to give you guys some perspective, the way that I have invested would be something along the lines of 80% Bitcoin, 15% Ethereum, and then 5% or less everything else. And we call those shit coins. So there's a reason why they're called shit coins, because most likely they're going to go to zero. So, but in terms of Ethereum, I'll just say one other thing. Like right now, things like NFTs are going crazy, and most of those are on Ethereum. So you've probably seen like CryptoPunks or some of these other avatars that people are putting up on their Twitter bios, and people are flipping them for like $1 million or whatever. So that's certainly in a bubble. I don't know where the bubble ends, right? There probably is some more juice there, but it probably ends at some point. But I do think that Ethereum is a serious project. I do worry that at some point there will be a competitor to it to come out and displace it. But I do think it's probably worth investigating. But yeah, I think for me, Bitcoin is more like a savings account. That's how I honestly see it, as a savings account. Everything else would be like an investment or a speculation. So Ethereum might be an investment. The shit coins might be like a speculation. Bitcoin would be a savings vehicle.
Gotcha. So Bitcoin's more of like a store of value, whereas Ethereum is something you would invest into for like the long-term outlook there.
Yeah, I think with all of them, you'd probably want to invest. I guess the way that I look at investing is I don't like to do like, put money in something and be like, oh, it went up a little bit and then get out. And then like, when do I get back in? So you got to like keep making the right decision over and over. You got to make the right decision on the top, at the bottom, and then at the top again, at the bottom. And so I personally like to invest in things and then just hold them. And if they run up a lot and then if things change and I don't really understand it or I don't like it, maybe I sell it, but I don't do the whole like, buy it low here, and then when it goes up a little bit, sell it. And I think you go crazy trying to do that stuff. But yeah, I would hold it. I think if you hold Bitcoin and Ethereum, it's probably a pretty good bet. If you're holding most of it in like Dogecoin, or I think there's like Shiba, whatever, I wouldn't do that personally, but you could make money off of it. You just need to get out before the rocket ship explodes. Cool. Other Daniel.
Yeah. Hi. Hey, thanks, Dan, first for the time. And I mean, this just blows my mind, honestly. So I really love hearing more about it. But my question is, what gives it value? So obviously I have some ideas and you touched on it, but I guess that's question number one. I just want to hear from you, just like what really is the driver of value? And then my second question is, how do we capitalize on that as, 15 to 25-year-olds? We might have some money in savings, but not a lot of money. So like, do we use that $10,000 that we've saved up to invest for the long term? Do we invest in education on Bitcoin, on cryptocurrencies, in order to capitalize it through a business? Or I guess just maybe from your perspective on people our age getting into it, what's the best investment or ROI? And then if you could answer the first question, just really what gives it value. And thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of questions there. I'll start with the what gives it value. I think right now in the world, people are struggling to find a store of value. Like right now, you may or may not have seen in the last couple months, like that people say, well, inflation is 5 point whatever percent. So what's happening is that people are like, whenever they get dollars, they're trying to get rid of them into something else, because dollars are literally losing their, someone has called it like a melting ice cube. They're like losing value every single year. If you hold $1, like this year, if you have $1, next year that you'll still have $1 percent to, it'll be worth 80 to 90 cents. So you'll have that same dollar in nominal terms, but in real terms, it'll buy 80 to 90 cents worth of value. So I think the real thing that people are struggling for, and so that's why you see all this crazy mania with the stock market going insane, all risk assets going insane. People have so much money and they're trying to get rid of it because it's losing value. People do not want to hold dollars. So I think, as somebody that's a younger person, I would want to make sure that I'm investing in assets and not in dollars. Okay, dollars are not a store of value. They're going to be worth less and less and less, and that's one of the problems right now, is that all the people with lots of assets are doing really, really well, and all the people with only dollars and no assets are not doing as well, right? And so the sooner you can get into assets, probably the better. So what else gives it its value? Well, really what gives it its value is the number of people, the network effect, really. So what gives Facebook its value? What gives Amazon its value? What gives Google its value is that so many people use it, right? You have to have that mass adoption of people. And with an asset class that is at 100 plus million, 1 to 200 million people on a growth trajectory like this, literally we're seeing like adoption explode. It means that more people value it as a store of value. And so that's a thing. You're like, you'll hear people say, well, there's no intrinsic value. What does that mean anyway? Right? What is the intrinsic value of a network like Facebook? I don't know, but we can all agree it's super valuable, right? But I think what else you said. Okay, so if somebody has $10,000, so just to give you guys some perspective, like I could totally see. I mean, if you add 10 times as many users onto a network, how much more valuable do you think it gets? Probably at least 10 times as valuable, right? With 10 times as many users. So I don't see it outside the realm of possibility that in the next year we see a 6-figure Bitcoin, which means over 100,000, and then within 4 to 5 years, at 1 to 2 billion users, we see $1 million Bitcoin. So that's just an idea to throw it out there, that even if you only put in $1,000, right, this is something that in 5 years, 4 or 5 years, could be worth a significant amount of money. And so one other thing that I want to stress is that I think of Bitcoin as digital real estate. So if you were to own, like, let's say a house in the Hamptons or something, right? There's literally only so much space. Or let's say, like, I don't know, a place in, I don't know, Manhattan or Times Square, right? There's only so much real estate there. It's limited. This is the exact same idea, where there's a limited amount of real estate, and that is, and the real estate is in Bitcoin, and so really what you're buying is, like, you're buying the internet. If you could have invested in the internet 30 years ago, right, like whatever the internet is, you owned a piece of that. Literally, what would that be worth today? I mean, I have no idea. It's priceless, right? Because everybody uses it for every single thing. And that's what quite a bit of people believe, is that Bitcoin is going to be that next layer on top of the internet that you actually can own a piece of. So that's how I see it. Would I put all 10,000 in? I don't know. That's for everybody to decide. But I think it would be time well spent to understand the space, because it's coming whether you understand it or not. And it would be better to understand it and get ahead of it before, like, I'm always worried about being left behind by technology. So I'm always, like, looking to the next thing. Like, I'm trying to understand AI. I'm trying to understand everything, literally everything, because I don't want to be that guy that's, like, left behind and doesn't understand it. So I think it's one of the most important spaces to learn. Like I said, 50 to 100 hours is probably what it will take to understand Bitcoin itself. And then even more than that, to understand all the other, technologies in the space. But I think that it is definitely worth understanding.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan.
Cool. What's up, Terry?
You can oops, my camera fell. You can get Abby first, because she had her hand up.
Okay, Abby.
Okay. I'm totally new to this. This is like really interesting to me. Don't even know much about Bitcoin like at all. So I was just kind of curious, if like for someone who's new that's getting into it. I know you said that I don't even know how you'd go about like buying Bitcoin. What does that like education look like? You said 15 to like 50 hours to kind of understand that. Like, what does that education look? Is that just like YouTube videos? Do you have like specific videos that you watch or YouTube channels? I don't know.
Yep. Yeah, great question. It's really complex, and there's always like a million things out there. So I don't know if I sent this to Dan or not, but I'll send it to him and he can share it with you guys. I basically have what I send to people. I call it my Bitcoin rabbit hole email. It's like, hey, if you like to learn but via podcast, that's my favorite way to learn. Which, by the way I like to do it is continually another hack, which maybe some of you use, is to continually increase the speed at which you listen. And so first you're listening at 1x speed, and then 1.5, 2, and I'm up to 2.5 or 3x speed, and you still can understand it. So it's kind of like you can learn 3 times faster, right? So anyways, I will send, and I've got this email where I've got, hey, here's the first few articles to look at. Here's the first few videos. Here's some podcasts. If you want to buy it, here's how to do it. And at least that'll get you kind of into it to understand it. Cool. What's up, Terry?
What's up? My question is twofold. One, I'm curious, how do you hold your crypto? Specifically, I'm assuming it's mostly in Bitcoin. But how do you hold your crypto, your Bitcoin? How did you go about buying it? Because that might help some people here kind of start to wrap their head around what the process would be. And then maybe thirdly, do you have any favorite content creators or people you follow in this space to learn more about the crypto, Bitcoin, blockchain technology?
Definitely. Good question. Yeah, I think the easiest way is through Coinbase. It's just the easiest way for people getting in the space. But I'm also going to send you some links of other places that I use. So that's where you buy it. So those are exchanges. Those would be comparable to like a Fidelity or a Schwab or any of these like traditional finance places where you buy stocks. It's just instead of stocks, you're buying different cryptos. And then this is like the next level thing where you buy it and it's up on an exchange, right? So you bought it, it's on an exchange. But really, when you hold things on an exchange or at a bank, those are really IOUs to give you your property or your money, right? That's really just an IOU to give it back to you at some point. So just think about that, right? They have it, and if for some reason something bad happens, they don't give it back to you, right? So the one interesting thing about Bitcoin is that, and then other cryptos as well, is that you can take it from the exchange and physically take it off the exchange and into a device that you control. And that's called self-custody. And that's with a cold wallet, right? Okay, you got a ledger, good. And so what that means is that that would be like the equivalent to having your gold bar in a safe at a bank, as opposed to in your safe in your house, right? You actually custody it, you control it. So no one can take it from you, right? Unless you allow them to. And so that's super powerful, especially for people around the world that have like super oppressive regimes that literally come in and take everything. And then your question is, what happens if you lose the thing? So this is a good question. So you have this device, but it has a backup phrase. So a phrase of like, let's say 12 words or 24 words that you can memorize. And if you memorize 12 words in a row, you could have $1 billion of Bitcoin in your mind with 12 words. I mean, that's like crazy powerful. You literally could go anywhere, get another device, put in those 12 words, and you've got $1 billion. I mean, first you got to get the $1 billion, but whatever amount, right? So this is super awesome for people that are in other countries that are trying to flee with all their value. Like you can't flee with your real estate or with gold; they'll take it from you, right? Or other things. So I do that, Terry, where I have cold storage. And the best kind of cold storage is, and this is like next level stuff where you have multiple devices, and we can go down that as well, down that route sometime if anybody wants to talk about it. But yeah, so I'll keep some on the exchange and then some off the exchange. It's a way to diversify. So if an exchange blows up, right, you don't lose all your Bitcoin, basically. Not going to happen, but I'm more concerned about an exchange saying, hey, actually, we're not going to let you take it anymore. That's what I'm more concerned about. Like Mt. Gox, exactly. Guy knows his stuff. Cool. Robinhood. So I don't believe you can withdraw Bitcoin from Robinhood. So I probably would, I'd probably stay away from that one. I think Coinbase is better. Cash App is better. Another one called Strike. I don't think you can take it off of Robinhood. That's the one problem. You have to sell it, and then you'll take a taxable. You'll get cap gains tax if you had a gain. So I don't ever want to sell it. Like, for example, I literally don't ever want to sell any Bitcoin. All I want to do in the future is use it like a piece of real estate and borrow against it at low interest rates so that I don't ever have to pay tax. So that's something to think about.
One thing about Robinhood is that my dad has a friend or a coworker who admittingly got really lucky when he got into Dogecoin fairly early, right before it popped earlier this year. Got real lucky. I can't remember if he made like 10x or what it was. He turned like a grand, it's like over 10 grand. And life was good. But of course, he was new to cryptos. He didn't know exactly when to sell. And that's the danger with altcoins is, yeah, you can get some incredible gains, but if you don't sell at the right time, then that thing's just going right back down. So I don't remember when he sold, but when he did, he had a lot of difficulty getting that money off of Robinhood because of like some withdrawal restrictions. You can't transfer the crypto right off. Robinhood acts more like the IOUs, where you don't really own the crypto. They're just more saying you own this much, and you got to trust us, basically. So yeah, Robinhood's great for like the first beginning step, I think, but once you get a little bit more serious and you want to hold that and yourself or transfer it off to some other platform, it gets real tricky, real messy with taxes too.
Yep, agreed. But I think just getting in, this stuff that Terry and I are talking about is like kind of next level stuff. But just getting in, learning, and getting whenever you like invest in something, before you invest, you're not really that concerned. Then you invest a little bit of money, even if it's $10 or $20 or whatever. Like, let's say you're betting on a sports game, you know nothing about the teams. All of a sudden, you're like super interested in like what's happening with that game. Same kind of thing with investing in stocks or cryptos or whatever. If you put in just a little bit of money, all of a sudden you're going to watch it and learn and iterate and get better. And then looks like Daniel.
Yeah, I was just curious. Definitely don't answer if you're not comfortable, but how many Bitcoin do you own and what's your goal in terms of how many to acquire?
Yep, it's a good question. Bitcoiners will say that that's the one question they can't answer. But I will say that it does make up a pretty significant part of my net worth right now, which is probably in the 30 to 40%. So if that tells you just how into the space I am, yeah, a good try. Cool.
I have a question. Why is that the one? Why is that the one question that you won't like that everybody like doesn't answer? Like, why is that?
So for Bitcoiner, people that are into Bitcoin, we sort of see this as like a not like a prepper type thing, but it's something that you wouldn't want to tell people, hey, listen, I got 10 gold bars in my safe, and guess what? Here's how many guns I have, and I keep them right here, and my social security number is X, and that kind of thing. So it's just one of those where it's like you just don't talk about it. But I'll give you percentages. So I've given you some percentages to work off of, and you can guess. Yep, security.
Anybody else have questions? Dan, so I know like the value of Bitcoin goes up and down, and you can track that on some kind of a chart somewhere who manages the value. I mean, if they're getting traded on different exchanges, if you bought Bitcoin on Robinhood and then you bought it on Coinbase and you bought it at the same moment in time on the same day, are you paying the same price on both platforms other than any other, take the fees out of it? Or does each platform / exchange have its own selling point?
Market price. Yeah.
Market price.
Yes. And back in the day, years ago, there could be like a big difference in the prices on different exchanges. But as markets mature and they get bigger and bigger, like that ability to arbitrage and find what traders would do is they go on one and they buy it for $400, and then they go on another and sell it for $450 because there was like a $50 gap or something. Now it trades at like trillions of dollars, or I don't know what the number is, but I think we had a couple $1 trillion day. There's so much traded that you really can't find a difference there. So I would just go to the place that has the lowest fees.
Okay. And then to me, Bitcoin is kind of like stocks. It's not like it, but in some aspects it resembles it in that the value goes up and down, it fluctuates. And so when you sell it, and I forgot the question I was going to ask, but there isn't really a marketplace, right? Bitcoin isn't on the New York Stock Exchange, correct? I assume that's true. So you're buying it through different brokerages, exchanges. And as the value goes up and down, is it really just the value based on what people are willing to pay?
Yeah.
To buy it from you.
It's always based on what people are willing to pay for any outstanding, let's say stock or Bitcoin that's out on the market. So for example, right now, let's say there are, 18 million Bitcoin right now. There will be 21 million over the next 100 years, but let's say there's 18. About 3 million are lost. We could go into that, but only like 12 or 13 million are kept in like cold storage. They're off the market. So really the price is set by the 1 to 2 million that are on exchanges. So it's really set. The price is only set by the Bitcoin that is being exchanged, trading hands, not by the Bitcoin that's being held in cold storage. So what happens is over time, the long-term, we call them hodlers or holders, acquire Bitcoin and have so much conviction, they pull it off the market, never to be seen again, right? Unless the price explodes. And so as more and more get pulled off the market, there's less and less supply available. And because there's less supply available and we have hundreds of millions of users being added to the network, less supply, more users, price inevitably goes up. It doesn't always go up right away, but over time, that's what happens when it's just economics, more demand, less supply, price must go up.
Okay.
I don't know if that answered, I don't even remember what the question was, but
the question was about it, the price fluctuates like a stock based on what people are willing to pay for it.
And just like gold, right? The price of gold fluctuates. Gold isn't a stock; it's a piece of property. And so is Bitcoin. Bitcoin is called property. And so the other thing that I wanted to mention was the reason why it's so important to learn about this and understand it is because if you just buy it and then you see it drop by 50%, you're gonna sell and you're gonna say, oh my God, I just lost a lot of money. I got to get out of here, right? Mm-hmm. But if you understand it, you know that over time it does this, but it's always going up. It's always going up to the right, but it will have 50% drawdown. So if you're not prepared for that, you'll end up losing money, and that's what happens. And a lot of the people with quite a bit of Bitcoin and quite a bit of clout in the financial world, they'll go out and they'll talk trash about it, right? That all these hedge fund guys are like, oh, it's overpriced, it's terrible. But their incentive is to get it to drop so they can accumulate more and to get retail to sell. So I saw that happen. It's literally just happened. I saw a hedge fund manager who was like, oh, Bitcoin's going to 400,000. And then like the next couple of weeks, it's like, oh, it's going down to 20,000. It's just, so these guys, they play these games to scare people out of their positions. So just my advice is you really need to learn about this stuff and understand that it does crazy things. And all you do, the best thing that could happen is you buy a little bit and then you forget your password for 10 years and then you remember it, because then you can't sell. So yeah.
And then in the United States right now, Dan, is there ways, or are there marketplaces where you can actually pay for something with Bitcoin, US based? Does that exist already?
It does. But it doesn't work very well in the US, because anytime you sell Bitcoin or pay for something in Bitcoin right now, that is considered a taxable event. So so if you have a gain and then you pay for something, that's considered a taxable event, like selling a stock, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you sell a stock with a gain, you have to pay taxes on that gain. In somewhere like El Salvador, like I mentioned, they made it legal tender, which means it's just money. When you buy something with $1, you don't pay tax on that, right? Just like there, when you buy something in Bitcoin, you don't pay any tax. So as more and more adoption happens, there will be more of that medium of exchange use where people with a lot of gains don't want to have to pay tax, and then they will start spending it. So it's kind of there needs to be lots of adoption in other places, which forces the US government to change policies on what is considered legal tender. And then maybe that will change in the US. I don't know. But I think just having a store of value is the most important use case right now. At some point, I think down the line, 10 years, 15 years, we will get to a medium of exchange where people are actually using it. And then potentially a unit of account, which is where you denominate things in Bitcoin instead of in dollars. That may happen. We'll see.
So yeah, I guess best case scenario would be 10 years down the road, you could go on your Amazon account and buy some socks with a little bit of Bitcoin from your Bitcoin account. And it's not a taxable event. It's just a different monetary unit to pay with.
That's the hope. Yep. We shall see.
Okay. All right. I think we're kind of running down to the end of our hour with Dan. Any last thoughts or comments before we let him go? I guess not.
Well, what I'll do is I drop my email in here. So if anybody wants to reach out and wants to ask questions or about anything, it could be about e-commerce or let's see, Bitcoin, or if working with VAs abroad. That's something we do a lot. Hiring, we do a lot in that. Yeah, that's about it. Or kids. So if you have any of those questions, feel free, reach out. Happy to help if I can. And then I'll send you, Dan, I'll send you the Bitcoin rabbit hole stuff so you can forward that on to your team here.
That would be great. Yeah, I'll put it in our group. Thanks so much, Dan. Appreciate your time. And I'll let you get back to your kids. I have one kid, so I'm just imagining your life is 3 times as crazy as mine. So we really do appreciate you taking time to be with us.
Well, this is great. I got to miss bedtime. I didn't have to put any of them to bed, so this is worth it.
Oh, okay. So you're welcome. Yeah.
Yep. Thank you. All right, everybody. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Dan.
And if you like this video and want to see more like it, make sure you give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You should also go check out our website and Instagram, which are both linked below this video. Thanks again for watching. Now go and get your freak on.